I'm Frank Garza, and welcome to Here and Abroad, a podcast that follows the U.S. men's national team and their player pool across Europe, MLS, or wherever else they play their club football. The USMNT is out of the Copa America after their 1-0 loss to Uruguay on Monday night. The result left them in third place in Group C, while Uruguay and Panama finished first and second, moving them on to the knockout round. On today's show, we're going to break down the match against Uruguay, the Copa America as a whole for the U.S., and discuss what's next for the team. And to help me do all of that, I've invited Larry Henry Jr. to join the show. Larry is the managing editor and USMNT insider at SBI Soccer. He's also a writer for MLS and MLS Next Pro. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, Frank. Thanks for having me again. Always appreciate the invite and I enjoy doing it with you. I wish it was on a more exciting note in terms of the U.S. men's national team. But unfortunately, Monday night's performance was probably one of the worst we've seen in recent time. And hopefully, unfortunately, too, we don't have a match coming up for a few months. So can't get over it pretty quickly. But glad to be back with you, and thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with that match last night. You're saying it's I think you just said they're one of the worst performances you've seen in a while. Tell me more about what made it what made it like that for you?
Overall, obviously I think the team worked hard in a sense, right? I mean, the opening probably 30 minutes, I thought they were pretty well in terms of holding possession, and they were really kind of, winning corners, winning throw-ins, doing a lot of the dirty work that goes into these types of matches. And but overall, I mean, they didn't really seem to really frustrate Uruguay in the back. I think the goalkeeper only made 2 saves in the whole match, and they were pretty comfortable saves. It just seemed that the collective unit as a whole, at times did well in connecting passes and, again, working hard as a unit. But as the match went on, you kind of see them maybe tire a little bit. Some sloppy passes. Again, kind of no creativity in the final third in terms of, one-on-one attacking abilities or getting, crosses in the box for forwards to get on the end of. I just think that in a do or die match, you lay it all on the line. You do everything you can to try to score. I guess you try not to be over aggressive because then that leaves you open in the back. But I kind of figured that we would see that maybe from the U.S. in terms of getting after Uruguay, getting after the back line, putting them under pressure. And we really didn't see that for most of the match. Obviously, some big decisions, went against the U.S. In the match, which we'll get into. But I just did. It was a pretty sour note to end the Copa. If it was like a 2-1 or 1-0, and you force the goalkeeper into like 8-9 saves, it's one thing. But it seemed like a pretty pretty spineless performance, if you ask me. On home soil.
Yeah. Definitely disappointing. And I mean, for me, it kind of comes down to what a lot of these matches come down to, and that's just that the U.S., they just can't be as clinical as they need to be with the few opportunities they get against. When you play these great teams, you're only going to get a few opportunities, and they did only get a few opportunities, and they couldn't put them away. I didn't feel like Uruguay had a lot of opportunities. I don't know what the expected goal was for both teams, but I didn't feel like they were just getting great opportunities left and right. I think about the two opportunities that stick in my mind where I think we could have got a goal, maybe should have got a goal, is the first one where Anthony Robinson was on the left, kind of going for a ball, and the goalkeeper came out. And the ball kind of sprung free, and so there's no goalkeeper in the net. And we passed it around a few times. Ultimately, Pulisic got a shot off, and it got blocked. But I mean, you get the goalkeeper out of your net, and you have players in the box. A clinical, ruthless team finds a way to put that away. And then there was also the time where they had a good build-up. Haji Wright took a shot, and you saw in the replay, Pepe right there, wide open, waiting for it. And I know these are like not easy things to do, but it's just like that's the difference. That's the difference in quality for me, is that other teams find ways to like put those away. Overall, we're out of the Copa America now. You and I have been talking about this for a long time, looking forward to the Copa America. I mean, what's going through your mind this morning? Not just that we lost the game last night, but knowing that we're out of the tournament, didn't even make it to the knockout round.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a pretty sour note, right? A lot of excitement before the tournament began. I mean, you and I had talked before. I know a lot of other media and fans were excited about the tournament being back in the U.S. With this really great generation of players that the U.S. have right now at their disposal, and it really sucks because it's one of those things where, like we said, there's not really a competitive match now for a while, so you can't really. Sometimes the best way to get over something like that, a loss like that, or elimination, is to get back on the field ASAP and kind of put it to the back of your mind. But right now, there's no national team matches until September and October with friendlies, and then the Nations League knockout stage in November. But yeah, it was just disappointing, right? We a lot of guys came into this camp off really great club seasons, Christian Pulisic and Jedi Robinson and Chris Richards, and a lot of players that had really good seasons, and it kind of stinks that the way it ended, losing even to Panama. I mean, I know Panama's done a great job the last couple of years. Thomas Christensen's done a great job kind of putting them back among kind of the elite in CONCACAF and the conversation. But, losing that game to Panama was definitely a backbreaker, and then putting the extra pressure on the Uruguay match, and knowing that Panama is going to play Bolivia, who again was, really kind of playing for pretty much pride at that point, and kind of gave Panama a go in the first half, but then you could see the kind of the talent level come through for Panama. So, yeah, just a disappointing ending to the tournament, and like I said, it stings because we don't have no national team matches for a few months now, and again, there could be a new coach by then, could be the same coach, but again, now it's a kind of a period of uncertainty, is I think what I've written about a lot since last night.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this for so long. Now it's like the next thing to look forward to is really the World Cup. I mean, there's going to be some highlights along the way. I'm sure we'll get some friendlies scheduled. I'm hoping at the Gold Cup next year, maybe they can find some guest teams to participate, from other regions that are like higher quality to make it a bigger tournament. But I mean, the biggest feeling I have right now is just kind of I just feel kind of like robbed. Of like not even truly getting to see what the U.S. men's national team could do because of this red card. I mean, it all comes down to the red card for me, and that changed the tournament, completely. And that's who I put like most of the blame on, and we can get into, I know there's. You could argue it's all Tim Weah's fault, but then you could also argue that maybe there's a discipline type issue, with this team, which we'll talk more about when we start talking about Berhalter's future. But I just feel like what I was looking forward to was seeing this true test, and this red card in the Panama match changed everything. And it put the U.S. in a game against Uruguay where they absolutely had to have a result, or get knocked out, and it's just, you don't want to put yourself in that type of situation, going into the third match of a group stage. But yeah, you mentioned some players there when you were kind of talking through your overall thoughts there, and that's what I want to talk about next. Is kind of just, let's do like a little bit of a stock up, stock down of some USMNT players throughout this tournament. Let's start positive. who's a player who you think their stock has gone up over the course of the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the better overall performances, right? I mean, I think Christian Pulisic's an easy one. I thought I had a pretty solid tournament, but one guy I want to give kind of a shout out to. I know he didn't play the full match last night, but Folarin Balogun getting a couple goals this tournament, I think that was kind of crucial for him, right? We know the talent that he brings. He had kind of a up and down club season in France, so he was coming in maybe not in the best of form, but I think for him, right, with so many kind of forwards in the mix now, right? Haji Wright, Josh Sargent, Ricardo Pepi. I think this was important time for Balogun to kind of pad his stock a little bit, get some goals. That's the best thing I think as a striker you can do to improve your stock is to score. And I think, scoring a couple goals, scored a really great goal, against Panama. And then obviously had the goal too against Bolivia, but it kind of stinks. He got forced off with an injury last night before halftime. Don't really know the diagnosis on that, but hopefully it's kind of a speedy recovery for him. But I think too, I think he did the most with his opportunities. I thought at times he was kind of a thorn in the side of both Bolivia and Panama's backside, winning fouls and doing a lot of the dirty work. So he's one guy I thought that definitely improved his stock. Like I said, hopefully it's not a long-term type of injury or anything like that, because after you score a couple goals, you want to be back in the mix come September. And, an injury doesn't obviously help with that. So I think he definitely improved his stock. And then I thought, another guy that had a good tournament, I thought was Jedi Robinson. I thought he was really, did well defensively. Again, a guy that just kind of has an engine that doesn't go out, right? He's just going up and down the field over and over again and doing well defensively. So I thought he had a good tournament as well. Outside of probably those three guys I named, I can't really think of, too many people that really impressed me this tournament. I think it was good to see Tyler Adams obviously back and playing regularly again. Got 90 minutes last night, was his first 90 minutes since March, with Bournemouth. So I think that's crucial for him in terms of getting back to a long-term role with the team and not missing time through, kind of repetitive injuries. But, outside of those four guys, I think it was a pretty, a lot of others really didn't perform throughout the tournament, at least to their potential.
Yeah, Balogun was the one that really stood out to me in terms of his stock going up. I mean, this is the best I've seen him play in any window. Not just the goals scored, which of course is huge, but just his attitude, the way he was fighting out on the field with his hold-up play. I saw him showing a lot more personality, kind of getting on the ref's case, getting on every other player's cases. I mean, he wasn't just out there quietly playing. I mean, he just had a lot more of a presence. And I think, there's been a lot of debate on who is the right number 9, going forward. And I think he by far performed the best out of all of them. And I think he kind of quieted any type of discussion on, should he be the guy, going forward. Another guy I feel positively towards, and I'm not saying he had this incredible performance or anything, but I think Joe Scally deserves some credit. He's no Serginho Dest, and that's okay. Few guys are going to be able to, have the attacking prowess that Dest has. But man, Scally, he fought hard. He did everything he was asked. I mean, we didn't lose. We're not knocked out of the Copa America because Joe Scally was there. I mean, he did his job. He worked his tail off. I mean, he was injured last night, didn't come out of the game, just kept fighting. I think he played, if not every minute of the entire tournament, pretty close to every minute. And it's I wish I could just go see him and walk up to him and shake his hand and say thank you for the effort. I mean, that's what you want kind of a substitute to do when a guy's injured. What about stock down? Um, Probably a lot of these, when you have a performance like this. But if you had to just pick out, a guy or maybe two guys, whose stock do you think suffered the most after this tournament?
Yeah, I think there's a few guys. Looking at it, obviously, I think Tim Weah. I think just in terms of maybe not the effort, but in terms of like you kind of hinted on earlier about the red card kind of really putting the U.S. under some pressure throughout the rest of the tournament, and that's not something we would, I think, normally see out of Timmy Weah. I mean, usually he's a fiery athlete and a fiery winger, and that kind of his role. But you didn't really, I didn't expect him to be the one to kind of put hands to the face or anything like that, or put his team in jeopardy of getting a red card or being without him for a key match against Uruguay, and obviously the rest of the Panama match. So pretty disappointed, obviously in Way. Obviously, I know he's come out and apologized, which is good, which is what you'd expect. Obviously, Serginho Dest had his kind of meltdown in the Nations League last year, and it seemed like people were ready to throw Serginho Dest out of the mix, right away after that. I hope people don't do the same with Timmy Weah, because I still think he's a great athlete and a great asset to this team. But I think it was off the season that he had with Juventus, where he was kind of in and out of the squad, really didn't get a lot of consistency there. I thought this was kind of important for him to get back to playing regularly and pad his role with the national team. And I think he, didn't really do much to help that. And then another guy, I guess I was kind of maybe not disappointed, but maybe kind of shocked with maybe his, how comfortable he was on the field, was Chris Richards. I thought at times he looked kind of complacent in possession, was putting, Matt Turner into some tricky situations with back passes. At one point last night, I thought in the early going, I thought Matt Turner was going to have his leg broke, just because of the pressure he was put under. And Richards had a really good season with Crystal Palace, jumped into the first team and really kind of held the spot for the whole season, which was great for him. But I kind of figure, the center back group, right? That's a group that we've talked about in the past, who's going to come out of there and be the kind of long-term starters. And, we both kind of talked about Chris Richards and, will he be the guy to partner Tim Ream for the next year or so, or however long Tim Ream decides to play. But I didn't really think that Chris Richards really helped his case any. I still think that kind of number 2 center back spot is still up for debate, whether that's Cameron Carter-Vickers or Mark McKenzie or someone down the road, Austin Trusty, someone else. But definitely kind of a shocking couple games for Chris Richards, and the competitor he is. I know he'll bounce back, but not the best when it happens on one of the biggest tournaments this summer.
Yeah, really early in the match last night, he had that back pass to Turner where it looked like he didn't even do a full look to see where the defenders were. And I mean, that was probably a millisecond away from the defender kind of getting that, and that could have put us down, early. And he did that throughout the tournament. So I was disappointed in that as well. Definitely Weah, I think. I mean, he's got to be feeling awful today. I agree. He's like the last person I would have expected to get a red card like that. But the consequences of it, I mean, I really do think that singular event is more responsible for the U.S. getting knocked out, at the stage they did, more than anything else. And so I think his stock has to kind of go down a little bit. And then I think, just to touch on him a little bit, I didn't think Musa or McKennie did much to help themselves in the tournament. Musa didn't get to play as much, but last night he was in there and didn't seem to be much of a difference maker. McKennie, I just can't figure out how a guy can just have such a productive season at Juventus, and then when he comes to play for the U.S. men's national team, we don't really get any productivity, out of him. I thought he had better energy in the Copa America versus some of the previous matches I've seen, but still, I just think a guy that gets as many assists, I forget the number of assists he got last season in Serie A, but a guy without productivity, and if you're getting nothing from him, at national team level, I just something's wrong there. And then maybe Pepe, because he did get some opportunities where he could have scored a big goal. And I don't think he did necessarily a lot of things wrong. He missed some opportunities against Bolivia that you think he definitely should have got. But it's like he's fighting for his spot, and he could have made some big goals in this tournament, and he didn't get any. And so I think maybe his stock went down a little bit as Balogun's, went up. We'll talk about somebody that almost everybody I see online today thinks their stock is going down, and that's Greg Berhalter. As I scroll through Twitter, it seems everybody's kind of putting their piece out of they think it's time to move on from Berhalter. Like to hear from you. What do you think about Greg Berhalter's performance in this Copa America, and do you think U.S. Soccer should stick with him as a coach going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that losing kind of away like they did, kind of over the three matches, losing to Panama, losing to Uruguay in a must-win, kind of the effort. I can't really doubt the effort in this side, but I mean, it just seems like nothing's really changing in terms of the strategy, the tactics, the formations. Even I thought with maybe some of the personnel, maybe we see some other guys last night, in the starting lineup, maybe a wrinkle here and there, but it just seems like Berhalter hasn't really again changed in what he wants to do with this team. I think when things aren't going well for you, you obviously try to watch film and learn, take some new ideas and try to sprinkle in some things here and there. And I just don't think we've seen that throughout the tournament. I just think that, again, with this tournament being on home soil, you want to, prove yourself against some of the better teams in South America and obviously make a deep run. I'm not saying go out and win the tournament because obviously Argentina's there and Colombia is there and Brazil's there. But the same point, don't get knocked out in the group stage of your hosting tournament. I think that, Berhalter has done a good job in terms of getting this team kind of, rebounded from the failure of 2018. And obviously, they pick up some silverware along the way, Gold Cups, Nation Leagues. But, they get back to the World Cup, which was obviously important. They go kind of toe-to-toe with England in that World Cup. But, it's one of those businesses where it's like, what have you done for me now? And right now they're entering summer break, for the next couple months, weeks and months before they get back together in September. And, I think it's time. Like I said, I think he's done a great job of navigating them back from 2018, but I just don't think he's the guy that's going to get the best out of these players ahead of 2026. And, this is one of the better, best groups of players that we've ever seen in U.S. soccer in terms of guys that are playing for big clubs and playing in big moments and playing in big competitions overseas. But then, you can't, you get thumped by Colombia. Last fall you lose to Germany. These are big time teams. These are the teams you want to be competing against and beating. Yes, you get a draw against Brazil, and then Brazil goes out, the first game and ties Costa Rica. So it's like, that draw doesn't look as good afterwards. So I think it's time. I think that there definitely needs to be a change. And then obviously, like, you said, seeing a lot on Twitter and, hearing some of the comments from the players, Tim Ream probably most about kind of, the intensity in training and maybe not being the most intense sessions, and it's a lot of great chemistry within the players, but you kind of want a little bit of anger in between the players too. You want guys, practicing mad against one another. You want to get a rise out of some of your players, maybe the guys that aren't playing. It just seems like they have such a good chemistry and good friendships and everything like that. And I think that could maybe hurt them in a sense, because you're maybe not facing that adversity of, losing a couple games in a row and, being, pissed off a little bit when you go out and play. So I think that I think it's time. Whether U.S. Soccer decides to go that route, we'll see. The big thing, obviously, is we're 2 years away from the World Cup. So who are you going to kind of get at this point? Whether it's someone internally, whether it's BJ Callahan, obviously there's MLS interest in him. Whether it's someone from Europe, I keep seeing people put, Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. I don't see that happening. Jurgen Klopp is a great club manager. That doesn't mean it's going to translate over to the international stage. So, would I love to have him? Absolutely. But we got to be realistic a little bit. So, same thing with Guardiola. I think Guardiola is going to get when Guardiola leaves Man City, he's going to have a lot of more better offers internationally than the U.S. But I think it's time. I've enjoyed working with Greg, talking to Greg, over the years. But I think it's time, and clean slate, start fresh, and hopefully the sooner the better, because like I said, 2 years until the World Cup.
Yeah. I've been a huge supporter of Berhalter, over the years. I thought he did a great job in the first cycle. I thought the team, getting the team back to the World Cup, getting them in the knockout round, and playing. I disagree with a lot of people. I thought the Netherlands game, wasn't as bad as a lot of people, make it out to be. I thought that game was closer than the 3-1 scoreline, I believe. But I was happy with it. I thought he deserved another chance to kind of continue after the World Cup. But there's two things in particular that I've become concerned about. One is the discipline type of issues that we're seeing, and kind of just wondering if the team is just getting too comfortable, with him. There's for example, the red cards of Dest and Weah now. There's hard-nosed coaches out there that if you did something like that, you'd be kicked off the team, or you'd be suspended for a period of time. There's coaches out there that would not tolerate anything like that. And that kind of puts some fear into the players. I don't want our players to have fear, but I'm just saying that that's not always the player's fault. I think there's a culture, I think, of comfortability maybe, where the players feel like they can do that without the consequences. And then, but the same thing with when we play lower tier opponents, you'll see the team just completely not show up. Sometimes there was that. Both actually matches against Trinidad and Tobago, and the what was it, the Nations League quarterfinals. The home match, it took them until the 80th minute or so to score a first goal, and then they ended up getting 3, I believe. There was the Jamaica semifinal in the Nations League where they, got lucky with an own goal on pretty much the last play of the game, but they could have got kicked out in this Panama match. So it's just there's this inconsistency I see from the team from match to match, and there's just what appears to be these discipline type issues where players are just doing dumb things. And I think that does speak to the coach and the culture that he's created, around the team. And then I would say I think he's doing what he is kind of expected with the current player pool, but they're definitely not punching above their weight. They're not doing better than their quality. You know what I mean? If anything, they're doing kind of what they're supposed to have done. And so I don't know. I won't be surprised to see him stay or go. We'll see what Matt Crocker decides. I think a lot of it's going to depend on who they think they could get if they did let him go. and if they think they could actually get somebody, better than Greg. But it wouldn't shock me either way if he's kept on or if he's let go. But yeah, for the first time, I think I'm starting to kind of come around to we could see some benefits from, something fresh from like a change. Aside from the coach, let me ask you just, we're kind of short on time here, but I'm just thinking about what does this U.S. men's national team need to improve their level, to get to the level we want to see them at by the next, World Cup. If you had to just name like one thing you'd like to see them get better at or do different in the next like 2 years, what would you say?
I would say, I mean, outside of obviously the coach and maybe, roster decisions, sometimes, again, we see a lot of the same guys, obviously deserving guys, right? Pulisic and Adams and Musa, but sometimes, we touched on it a little bit, it seems like sometimes they roll out the same team, the same guys, even if their performances aren't great, right? Weston McKennie wasn't particularly great this tournament, but he's still, obviously one of the first names you think of in the starting lineup. Same thing with Yunus Musa and some others, Timmy Weah. I'm kind of hoping that we maybe see some other guys, step up in their opportunities and kind of force some changes, right? Maybe, we see guys like McKinney and Musa and Weah come off the bench, and we see some guys kind of really take hold of some positions. Obviously, again, that goes down to the coach, but I think it also comes with the performance levels of the players and, making the most of their opportunities. And I think too, just being more decisive in the final third. You look at so many teams, right? England, you got, Harry Kane in the final third, Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham, Brazil, Vinicius Jr., Rafinha, Rodrigo, game-changing players. Christian Pulisic's a great player. Sometimes we don't see maybe that game-changing attitude from him or abilities. We see a great goal here and there. We see a good assist, but we don't see it on a consistent basis. And maybe that's like a pressure thing of having to do it all yourself. But maybe we see some other players kind of, take that initiative and stepping up. Balogun with the goal against Panama, right? Wicked shot off the post, trying something. You can't be one-dimensional in terms of attacking and just look for the open guy. And I hope we see some guys, Malik Tillman, Gio Reyna, these guys that have had great attacking abilities. Let's see it on the international level. Let's see some game-changing abilities and some leadership here in terms of putting the team on your back. It can't just be Christian Pulisic getting fouled 10, 12 times a game and then, getting ridiculed on social media because he can't deliver a great cross or a great free kick or, it's got to be some other people that step up. And I think that comes down to the players. You're a lot of these guys playing for big clubs. Hopefully we can see that translate to the international level over the next couple years.
Yeah. That would more or less be my number one as well, is more individual breakout performances in Europe. I want to see more guys have individual seasons like Christian Pulisic just had it at AC Milan. I mean, it was incredible what he did for one of the top clubs in Europe. And you could say Wes McKennie had a real breakout performance as well, at a top club. It's not translating to the USMNT right now, but that's what I want to see is more players having seasons like that. And before the next World Cup, there's 2 full European seasons. And so how many more breakout players can we get in those 2 seasons? I think Balogun has a huge potential to be one of them. Can he become just a top-notch goal scorer at AS Monaco? Can Gio Reyna find a home where he's now delivering, productivity? Tim Weah, can Chris Richards become like just an everyday center back for Crystal Palace or somebody else. Can Tyler Adams stay healthy and become one of the best defensive midfielders in the Premier League? That's what I want to see is over these 2 years is like more players that have had a season like Pulisic just had, and then hopefully that collection can then come together and make a better team. But we'll see. Well, Larry, I'll make sure and put links in the show notes to your X account, which is at lhenry019, and also to your work at SBI Soccer. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks a lot, Frank. Appreciate it.
And thanks to everyone for listening to Here and Abroad. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a fellow USMNT fan. I'm Frank Garza. You can follow me on X at FrankGarza007, and I'll be back next week with a new episode.